Hey nerds, what's up? Today we're going to be discussing a maybe slightly controversial topic, which is, should reviewers, particularly on YouTube, not talk about a book if they don't like it? AKA, should booktubers always remain positive and only review things they like? Let's discuss it after the jump. So this idea popped up most for me on my Witcher and Dresden reviews that I did a few months back. People were saying in the comments, okay, if you didn't like this book, then don't review it. Don't talk about it. Keep it to yourself. And it just really got me thinking about this idea, like, should this be true? If a booktuber reads a book, particularly a very popular one, and it doesn't resonate with them and they don't like it, should they just keep quiet and move on and only review things that they can absolutely gush about and review with a positive spin? Now, on the one hand, I can kind of understand this argument. Now, you guys may not believe me, but in my normal day-to-day life, I do not like being controversial. I generally like to keep things upbeat and positive and happy. So this idea of bringing only positive things to the booktube sphere is something I can understand. Like, being able to come to this space and only seeing happy things is an idea that I can understand in its inception. But ultimately, I disagree with this idea. I don't think reviewers on YouTube should be quiet about the books they dislike. I think they have every right to talk about books that just didn't do it for them, whether they're popular or not. And one of the key things is I don't think a negative review has to necessarily be negative itself. Let's dive into that. I kind of think there are two different types of negative review videos, which I'll classify as a regular negative review and a rant review. I think rant videos distinguish themselves from regular negative reviews by generally being more negative, more over the top, more emotional, and are more intended to get a rise out of people. Over my channel's short lifetime, I feel like I've made about 5 book reviews that I consider negative. Now, when I was first starting out on booktube, I didn't really know the direction I wanted to go. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, other than I knew that I was going to be talking about adult fantasy. So one of my very early videos I made was actually a rant video. I can link it here. It was about the book, The Future of the Other Timeline. Now, nobody ever ended up watching this video. Even though this book had a lot of hype, I think it was nominated for some awards. That's why I remember buying it. It has so few reviews. I never heard about it again. No one ended up really caring about this book. It didn't really pick up. So to this day, no one really cares that I made a rant video about that. So really my first rant video that picked up a ton of steam was my first Witcher negative review, which was a pure rant video about the first Witcher book. These two videos I would consider are rant videos, and I separate them from my other negative review videos for one primary reason, and that's that they weren't really looking to inform. They were kind of the negative reviews I'd give a book when I was talking to a friend face to face. You know, very emotion driven, very off the cuff, very ranty and over the top, and not really geared towards making a discussion, but rather just dumping how I felt. You know, they were complaining, inflammatory, and not doing a whole lot to add to a conversation. And while my Future of Another Timeline video did not get a lot of responses, my Witcher video did. And something I noticed about the intense negative response to that video is that because I did not really explain myself, I did not give the proper definitions, I did not really do a good job of explaining why I felt the way I did, I triggered a lot of defense mechanisms. I didn't give enough information for people to argue back with me in an intelligent way, and so it caused a breakdown of discussion. Instead, everyone just felt like they had to defend themselves rather than defending the work I was talking about. Now contrast this first Witcher video with my next Witcher video, which is honestly one of the videos I'm the most proud of still to this day. That video had intense research, it had intense explanation, definitions. I delivered my opinions in a very calm way. I made sure to call out that I was not judging Witcher fans, but rather trying to discuss and say my point of view about how I felt about the Witcher book. And the difference in responses was literally astounding. Sure, did I still get a lot of people calling me names? Yes. But I ended up having so many more positive negative critiques, which may sound like an oxymoron, but what I mean is there were still a ton of people who disagreed with my stance, but because of the way I delivered the information, they were critiquing my video. They were critiquing my opinion on the book rather than attacking me as an individual. Instead of triggering their defense mechanism, they were able to engage in a discussion and argument about my ideas rather than go straight to defense attack mode. So in my opinion, that ended up leaving a very positive impression with me. It didn't matter that people were disagreeing. We were adding to the discussion and we were having meaningful discourse around a book instead of just kind of devolving into, name calling and nothing really positive coming out of it. And that taught me so much about how I wanted to do negative reviews. So I similarly stand behind my negative reviews that I did of The Invisible Life of Addie Review and the first book in the Dresden Files. I tried to do them with the same energy, which was calm, non-inflammatory, and just describing my point of view in an easily digestible manner that you could argue against. Ironically, my Dresden video, which I 100% stand behind as not an inflammatory review if you watch it, has gotten way more negative response than my Witcher videos, which I think were more inflammatory, but that's a video for another time. I still stand by it that it wasn't inflammatory if you watch it. Anyway, my point being, it taught me a lot and it made me realize that I really want to do negative reviews that add to the discussion and discourse on booktube, that are valuable rather than just trying to be a dump of inflammatory emotion. Because after all, if there isn't any disagreement, there really isn't any room for discussion, right? If we always discuss things completely positively, usually discussing kind of stalls because there's nothing really to talk about. It's like, yeah, I loved it too. I loved that part. I think of one of my favorite lives I've done, which was my live on Best Served Cold that I did with Leanna's Library, the Fantasy Network, and Jake Bishop. I purposely did that video that all of us had different opinions about Best Served Cold, from a DNF to like my favorite Abercrombie book. And that ended up being such a good discussion because we weren't there to be like, I'm right, you're wrong. We were there to really openly discuss why we had such differing opinions about that book. And it ended up being like this really intelligent conversation that I think added a lot than if we had just been discussing with people who all felt the same. Like, that's the whole point of discussion, is that people are gonna disagree. Additionally, negative reviews can just be really helpful. Like, when I talk to a friend, I sometimes will be like, oh, I read that book, I didn't really like it. I don't think you'll like it either, stay away. Like, if I would do that with a friend and they've done that for me, I appreciate when people can be honest about a book. When there's people I trust or I know they have very similar reading tastes to me, like, it's a relief sometimes to take a book off my TBR. Like, I can see a negative review and be like, oh, I'm definitely not gonna like that based on what they said. Great, now I can free up my time to read stuff I like more. Like, it's helpful to have negative reviews. Now, am I gonna judge other booktubers for ranting or say that YouTube shouldn't have any rant videos? Nah, let's be honest. Sometimes watching a good rant video is super fun, especially if it's like particularly well done or informative, or just plain you really agree with the opinion. I'm gonna be honest, like, I don't go around clicking on rant videos about books that I love because I don't wanna hear it. I just don't want to purposely be mad. But yeah, have I clicked on rant videos that I know I'm going to agree with? Yes, it's fun. So it's not like I think people should stop doing them. I just think personally for me, I'm going to try my hardest to stay away from the rant video and do more discussion or negative critiques that are more discussion or definition based. And obviously, I think this leads to another point. As booktubers have the right to make a negative review, viewers also have the right to disagree with that view and argue for their point. Like, you guys have every right to just completely disagree with a viewpoint in the comments. But one thing I'd like to say is that it's also on you as viewers to create a positive booktube if that's important for you. There is a positive way to disagree with a statement and a negative way, and I think we all kind of know. I actually have another whole video on that, so I'm not gonna go into it here. But just remember, just because someone makes a negative review on a video doesn't mean that you can't disagree, but you could also disagree in a kind way. So, fair warning, I will not be keeping quiet about the books I dislike on this channel. You're still gonna get them. You've been warned. Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys think about this. I do think this will be a controversial topic and not everyone's gonna agree with what I said. I'm sure a lot of people wish that booktube remained completely positive. So let me know below what you think. Like, would you prefer it to be completely positive? Do you just love a good rant video? Like, is that your favorite thing? Let me know. I wanna hear what you have to say about it. As always, if you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe. And if you wanna see what I'm currently reading along with other nerdy rants, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time. Bye.